Season 2, Episode 7, 8 out of 10. Episode 8, 10 out of 10. Episode 9, also 10 out of 10. Hi all, so the third batch of episodes for ANDOR dropped this week, and we got not only some of the best episodes of the series, but some of the highest rated episodes of any TV show. Who are you, and welcome to the Rebellion have 9.8 out of 10 on IMDb as of May 9th, 2025. This puts them up there with some of the highest rated TV episodes, including some of my favorites like BoJack Horseman's The View from Halfway Down, Better Call Saul's Plan and Execution, Mr. Robot's 407 Proxy Authentication Required, Breaking Bad's Ozymandias, Game of Thrones Battle of the Bastards, and my personal favorite TV episode ever, 6 Feet Under's Everyone's Waiting. While I'll need some time to process and figure out how I'd rank Andor's episodes, this arc was amazing. As many of us knew before the season released, the infamous Gorman massacre was going to be finally depicted on screen, and this arc gave us that atrocity. Episode 7 cranks up the heat on the Gorman pressure cooker as the Empire prepares for a genocide in order to secure precious resources. The Gorman front squabbles over peaceful versus violent resistance. Meanwhile, the rebel army begins amassing on Yavin. Even though it is a huge part of the franchise, mysticism has never been my favorite part of Star Wars, and Episode 7 has a Force-sensitive woman prophesizing Cassian's ultimate importance in the rebellion. While I know destiny and prophecies and mysticism are baked into Star Wars DNA, I can't help but feel that it comes off as a bit cheesy in an otherwise deadly serious show like Andor. However, that is my only complaint about this arc because holy shit, the next two episodes are damn near perfect. Episode 8 shows us the Gorman massacre in brutal detail. As Cassian prepares to assassinate Deidre, the Imperial soldiers clear the street blockades and fortify their central headquarters. Cyril realizes that there's more to the ISB's plan than looking for external rebel agitators as mining ships arrive on Gorman. As the Gorman protesters flock to the streets in defiance of the severe Imperial oppression they've experienced, they fall right into the Empire's trap. I do love the scene where Cyril walks into a room and sees a K2 unit, then the next shot shows us 6 of them hanging out together. Cyril confronts Deidre about the true plan and realizes that he's helped the Empire orchestrate a genocide. Finally showing shreds of a conscience, Cyril walks out amongst the protesters in an act of defiance. Deidre's order for the Imperials to begin shooting ultimately condemns Cyril to death. She knows that he went out into the crowd, and she knows the plan is to massacre everyone out there, yet she still gives the order knowing the man she loves is amongst them. That's fucking heartbreaking. Speaking of the Imperial plan, it's absolutely evil. The Empire sends out young recruits with no experience to disperse the crowd. They then have a sniper kill these Imperial recruits and blame it on the Gormans for starting the violence. This gives the Imperials a reason to start shooting, and that's when all hell breaks loose. My heart was once again pounding throughout this episode, and the suspense was insane. The first 26 minutes of the episode build the tension to a crescendo, then a single shot sets in motion one of the worst atrocities in Star Wars canon, a genocide over resources. Cyril is forced to watch the horrors he has been party to come to fruition, and just when it seems like things can't get any worse for the Gormans, the K2 units are released. They're absolute beasts who fling protesters around like they're playthings. They kill a bunch of Gormans as blasters have little to no effect on them. The second half of the episode is an action spectacle. Just when we think Cyril has grown and realized the error of his ways, he proves himself to still be a man-child as he spots Cassian and decides to take all his anger out on him. It's like he blames Cassian for pushing him so far into the Empire after the disaster on Ferrix. He attacks just before Cassian has the chance to shoot Deidre. The two have a brutal fight where they smash each other over the head with glass, slam each other into walls, and a grenade blast even interrupts their brawl. Cyril gets the jump on Cassian, holding him at blaster point. However, before he takes the shot, Cassian says probably the most hurtful thing he could say to Cyril. Who are you? It's from that line that this episode gets its name, and it shows that while Cyril made his life about hunting down Cassian after Ferrix, Cyril meant nothing to Cassian. He was nobody, he didn't matter at all. Cyril begins lowering his blaster. I'm guessing this is because he realizes his obsession and how all this was his doing, not Cassian's, but Cyril isn't given the chance for recompense as he is immediately shot in the head by the leader of the Gorman front. Cyril dies as a result of the senseless brutality of the Empire he was so loyal to. As Cassian and Woolman flee, they're chased by a K2 unit which ends up being K2SO from Rogue One. The young Gorman front rebel who brought the gun that got Simta killed saves Cassian by crashing his speeder into K2, cutting him in half. Realizing that the droid could be of use, Cassian brings the destroyed unit to his ship and makes his escape. Woolman goes to look for his partner, Drina, who is broadcasting a distress message that will go unanswered. She explains that the Empire has murdered thousands of Gormans and pleads for help that will never come. The episode ends with Deidre breaking down, realizing she has likely caused Cyril's death. We also see Cyril's mom, who cries while watching the news. She finally shows empathy and compassion for her son, but it's too late. He's gone. Now, how do you follow up the Gorman massacre? Episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion, manages the seemingly impossible feat. The episode opens with news of the massacre reaching the Senate. Bale plans to help Mon deliver a speech to the Senate and then help her get off-world before she is arrested for speaking the truth. As the Imperial officers monitor the senators for any signs of dissent, Mon prepares her speech. However, Luthen reveals that Bale's people have been compromised and she can't trust them. We find out that only one member of Bale's crew is a plant, as she kills another one of the members to cover up her connection to the Imperials. When the time comes for Mon's big speech to the Senate, Bale invokes Article 17-252 in order to allow Mon to speak. In another one of the show's epic speeches, Mon calls out the Empire as an authoritarian regime that is censoring the truth.
The distance between what is said
Shut it down.
and what is known to be true has become an abyss.
But even the man that you picked out, he said he wasn't a member of a gang. And then they looked, and on his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the
do that.
letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
Yeah, that was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Hey, he had MS-13 tattooed.
All right, we'll agree to disagree. I want to move on to something else.
Terry, do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture. We'll
and you think it was Photoshop? Well,
here we go.
Don't Photoshop it. Go look at his hand. He had MS-13.
He did have.
Certified pedophiles.
Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort.
When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest.
And don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're
doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
Mon embraces the truth and calls the massacre what it is, an unprovoked genocide. This gets a reaction of shock from her fellow senators, but it is painfully relevant in our reality.
The situation is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see innocent people being killed. Mr. Carney, why don't you call things as they are? This is a genocide. People in Israel do deserve peace and security, but people in Palestine do as well. What is going on right now is a genocide against people
Mr.
in
Carney,
Palestine.
you can conclude.
Why won't you admit it?
The situation in Gaza, in the Middle East, is horrible. But
It's a genocide.
But I never use that word in a political way to politicize the situation.
All right. But it's a matter of fact.
Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber.
Her final words before they shut off power to the Senate in order to silence Mon are to call Emperor Palpatine a monster. Cassian intercepts Mon before Bale's people can get to her. When the Imperial plant pulls a gun on Mon in the lobby to make an ISB arrest, Cassian shoots her to save Mon. Mon is horrified by witnessing violence firsthand. Mon finally sees the brutality of the movement she has been funding, and we are once again reminded of the cost of fighting evil. I won't spoil the other series, but I will say that this scene reminded me of a certain crash of worlds in Better Call Saul Season 6. Mon is further traumatized when Cassian kills her driver Cloris in order to secure them a getaway vehicle. Back at the old safe house that Cassian and Bix were staying at, Woolman and Drina are revealed to have survived the Gorman massacre.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
although Wilman has been seriously injured. At first I was disappointed that they didn't show Mon's second speech, but I had totally forgotten that it was shown in Season 3, Episode 18 of Star Wars Rebels. Thanks to Redditor HealthyStop7779 for pointing this out. Back on Yavin, Cassian tells Bix that he's going to give up the rebellion to be with her. Believing the prophecy that Cassian will be a hero who helps defeat the Empire, Bix leaves him in order to force him to keep fighting. Without her, he has no reason to give up. The decision is heartbreaking, but we know it ultimately leads to the success of the rebellion, so we are once again confronted with the emotional and human cost that overcoming evil demands. Rebels don't have the luxury of love and safety. Like Luthen, they burn their lives for a sunrise they'll never see. What makes this all the more tragic is that Bix promises she will find Cassian after they win, and the two of them can spend the rest of their lives together. However, we know Cassian's story ends in Rogue One, meaning they never get that life that could have been. This episode ends with K2SO getting booted up for use by the rebellion. I'd also like to shout out a comment from last week's video. Thanks Azad for leaving your thoughts. I totally agree that the monologues are top tier in this show. My favorite is easily Luthen's speech from Season 1, but there are so many iconic ones to choose from, and Mon's speech from Episode 9 can be added to that list. I also agree that the historical inspirations add so much weight to this series. Star Wars has never been very subtle about the parallels between the fascist empire and Nazis, but Andor takes it to another level with the serious subject matter it addresses. On that note, I'd also like to talk about the controversy that happened over on the r/Andor subreddit after Episode 8 aired. Let me know if I missed anything, but there was a post by user SteelGear117 explaining how the Empire tried to pass off what happened on Gorman as defending themselves rather than a genocide, and how this tactic is being used by the Israeli state to commit a genocide in Gaza. SteelGear then made a follow-up post with a screen grab of a comment from another user, RealBuggins YT. In his comment, RealBuggins points out that people aren't saying the Gorman massacre is a one-to-one parallel to the genocide in Gaza, and that Tony Gilroy drew on multiple historical oppressions. Since I've drawn parallels between the Gorman massacre and Palestine in this video, I want to say that I agree with SteelGear and RealBuggins. The Gorman massacre is in many ways different from the genocide in Gaza. We should condemn all acts of genocide around the world, including the Masalit genocide in Sudan, Rohingya genocide in Myanmar, the persecution of Uyghurs in China, as well as Russia's war on Ukraine. More than the event itself, I think the reaction to genocide in Andor is what most closely aligns with what we are seeing in our world. As user Hachimingo75 points out, you can be targeted for merely calling for an end to genocide. People are being illegally detained and persecuted in the US for merely saying that Israel is committing genocide, and that limitation on freedom of speech is scary, just like how it's scary that the Empire refuses to let anyone call the Gorman massacre a genocide. If we want to take a look at connections to other historical events, user T Moldovin made an excellent post and linked a video to show how similar the way the Gorman massacre unfolded was to attacks on peaceful protesters in Sarajevo back in 1992.
It would be the final peace demonstration in Sarajevo, April 1992. Thousands of Bosnians took to the streets against a looming war. Suddenly there was shooting. We didn't know who it was, nor where the shots were coming from. We only heard the bullets zipping past. For nearly 4 years, Sarajevo would be under siege by Bosnian Serb troops in the hills overlooking the city.
Andor Andor isn't a critique of one regime or atrocity from our world. It's an amalgamation of oppressive patterns that appear time and time again across various authoritarian governments. As an Aponist, I think it's horrible that calling for an end to violence has become a controversial thing to say. I also want to take a moment to bring attention to my animal friends across the world who are exploited every day. What happens to them is not a genocide, because humans have no intention of exterminating them. Instead, they breed them into existence for profit and pleasure. What is happening to animals is closer to the military-industrial complex, where death becomes profitable. And animal agriculture is not only profitable, but heavily subsidized across the world. All this to say that intersectionality is important, and speaking out for one cause doesn't mean it has to be at the detriment of another, or that one necessarily values certain lives or groups over others. I support Palestine. I condemn Hamas's attack on Israel. I support the LGBTQIA+ community. I condemn racial prejudice. I support antinatalism. I support animal rights. I support indigenous rights. I support feminism, and I want all these issues to get attention. I don't value any of them at the cost of another. They are all important, and oppression anywhere should be condemned everywhere. So even if you don't think one cause is as important as another, please don't put other movements down to advance your own. Stopping any form of pain moves us all towards a more positive world, which is why I think intersectionality is so important given the complex range of social issues we face. Getting back to the show, I love Andor, and I love the fact that it's creating spaces for these conversations. It's getting us to talk about difficult issues, and that's what I think some of the best fiction does. It makes us reflect not only on ourselves, but the world we inhabit. Can the final 3 episodes of Andor top the greatness that we've seen so far? That's a tall order, but this show continues to surpass expectations time and time again. I'll be back next week with my reaction to the final arc, but until then, let's end on a lighter note with some more Andor memes. Team Grips out.